Noir. That's how I say it. I mean, that's my American way of saying it. You want to be a little more French, you could do noir. I don't do noir because I don't like that R running away from me. You know, it makes me a little uneasy. But Joe, you know, those black and white, cheap crime movies from the 40s and 50s. There's a man, a woman, a gun. There's a crime that gets committed, but there's always a gun. Well, no, it doesn't have to be a gun. It could be a heavy object. It could be a kitchen utensil. No, not a spoon, Joe. The poem noir. You want to talk to me? You want to talk to me about the poem noir? Joe, that is not a phone conversation. We're going to have to meet eye to eye, face to face. Oh, wait. I gotta go. Joe, anytime you want to know about stuff that's over your head, I'm here for you. So what were you expecting? Ava Gardner in The Killers with Burt Lancaster, 1946, directed by Robert Siodmak? No, you're not getting Ava Gardner, you're getting me. Why? Because life is filled with disappointments. And you thought it was because Ava Gardner had been dead for 30 years. Yeah, that too, I guess. So, you're curious about noir and noir, both those things, right? Film noir, private eye detective fiction, and the poem noir. Okay, let's start with film noir. Like I was trying to explain to Joe, I mean, we're not going to talk about Joe. Maybe someday. So film noir began originally because not everybody had money for color, which was more expensive. Not everybody had money for the biggest directors, the biggest stars. Not everybody had a good script. But if you just take a man, a woman, sometimes two women, sometimes a not very interesting good woman and a very interesting bad woman and a gun, or maybe two men, a good man and a bad man, or maybe a good man who knocks on a door, knocks on the wrong door, a woman answers. Now he's going to become a bad man. You just have that combination, you can write yourself a nifty little script. They were shot many times, these movies, with powerful contrast. Since they didn't have the luxury of color, they would use 500-watt bulbs, get these strong shadows and light. Not a coincidence there are Venetian blinds behind me, because they stream through all the great noirs. When you see a neo-noir, a noir movie made after, say, 1957, often you will see that little signature. You'll be wondering why all these characters have Venetian blinds. It's the director telling you this is a noir movie, has a noir sensibility. So that's a little bit about noir. We're going to get to why should poets care? Why should we poets give a damn about any of this stuff, right? So, but then you've got something else. You've got Raymond Chandler. You've got the lone wolf, private eye, the gumshoe, that man who has no backup. Not like a police guy who's got his partner with him and the whole force on his side. The private eye hasn't got anybody on his side. he works alone. He's got nobody sticking up for him, right? So where's that come from? Let me think about this. Thinking about it even now, even as we speak. It comes from, well, let's see, in American legends, in American archetypal mythology, who is it who comes riding out of the horizon on a quarter horse sometimes, right? Into the little dusty town, and nobody knows where he comes from. He seems to have no past, works alone. So that's the American cowboy. And the 20th century private eye drew on that because it's already deeply embedded in our psyche. So it just converted it into the modern American city, the 20th century city. That's why film noir and private eye fiction has to take place on the streets at night with all the oil gleaming across the streets and the street lamps shining, the alleys disappearing. This is Chandler, right? Farewell, my lovely. You can see what a beat-up copy I have. Chandler, not English, American by birth, but raised in England, became fascinated with American culture. Finally, we come to the poem noir. Can you believe it? Joe, this guy asked me about the poem noir. I wonder who he's been talking to. He's been cheating on me with another intellectual. I have a feeling. Anyway, so Weldon Kees would have written the very first contemporary poem noir. In my opinion, I say he's the first. And in my opinion is the only one that counts. Weldon Kees vanished mysteriously in 1955 in San Francisco. I was born in San Francisco. There's a noir connection right there. So Weldon Kees came out of Nebraska, was a filmmaker, brilliant man, writer, critic, artist, and poet. I say this is the first poem noir because it has all the qualities a poem noir has to have. It's control, it's cool, decisive wit, it's tone of concealed despair, not melodrama. There cannot be melodrama. If there's melodrama, it's not noir. It's complete absence of sentimentality. If it's sentimental, it's not noir. It might be dark and sentimental. It might be dark and melodramatic, but it's not noir. So I wanted to show you this. Here he is. Here he is overlooking the water. Here he is near the Golden Gate Bridge. We're going to find out a little bit more about that later. This is the anthology of tributes and homages to Weldon Kees, assembled by Christopher Buckley, a poet himself. It is called Aspects of Robinson. The reason it's called Aspects of Robinson is because Weldon Kees created an alter ego. He created a series of poems in which a character very much like him, almost exactly like him, but with a different name, goes about the city in various states of despair. The one I'm going to read you is a poem inspired by the private eye genre, dime detective novels, cheap paperbacks, pulp fiction. It's innovative and surprising for its day. He died in 55. The beats had not quite yet emerged as a force. He was not himself a beat. Keep that in mind. Don't call him a beat. He was not a beat. He was a contemporary of the beats. He was a very sharp dresser. He would have found the beats a bit too slovenly. So I'm just going to read this poem. Crime Club. No butler, no second maid, no blood upon the stair, no eccentric aunt, no gardener, no family friend smiling among the bric-a-brac and murder. Only a suburban house with the front door open and a dog barking at a squirrel and the cars passing, the corpse quite dead. The wife in Florida. Consider the clues. The potato masher in a vase. The torn photograph of a Wesleyan basketball team scattered with check stubs in the hall. The unsent fan letter to Shirley Temple. The Hoover button on the lapel of the deceased, the note. To be killed this way is quite all right with me. Small wonder the case remains unsolved, or that the sleuth LaRue is now incurably insane and sits all day in a white room in a white gown, screaming that all the world is mad, that clues lead nowhere, or to walls so high their tops cannot be seen, screaming all day of war, screaming that nothing can be solved. Weldon KEES disappeared in 1955, April, I think it was. His car was found near the road leading to the Golden Gate Bridge. His keys still in the ignition. No note, no body. He had told some people that he might run away to Mexico and change his identity. He was also known to be extremely depressed, and if you read his Robinson poems, it's clear he's very depressed. So I think that he went over that bridge. You know, there were some sightings in Mexico. A couple people wrote little essays that they were sure they'd had a conversation with a brilliant man who knew all about film and art and poetry in Mexico, and it must have been Weldon KEES, but nobody could prove that they had talked to somebody in Mexico who knew all about movies and art and film and poetry. It's 4.5 seconds from the bridge to the water. And then the bodies, there have been a lot of those bodies, more than we know, because a lot of the people who went over that bridge, nobody was there to see, nobody was there to count. But the cold undertow carries them out, far out into the sea. So I think Weldon KEES left us with a great body of work. He wrote the first poem noir, and to this day, one of the best ones. We're going to be reading more poems noir down the line, if we're all still here. Because here it is. What are we? Where are we, everybody? What is it? October 22nd, right? Right now, of the man who received 62.9 million votes in the last election is threatening war with North Korea. That would be a nuclear war. Well, that's the kind of war we don't want to have. And just a couple weeks ago, the southern end of California burned. And then you know what happened? The northern end burned too. So that's the times we're in. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that with the real world being so terrible, when you come here and listen to me talk about film noir and poems noir, it will seem cheerful. By comparison, it will seem like pure escapism. So, hope to see all you folks on one of these LA streets.